Awesome. Well, Shawn Ryan, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Bro, you've quickly become, I think, one of my favorite people in the world. And we haven't known each other that long.
I know. I know.
It's just something about, I think, your demeanor, the way that you interview people, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you're so unapologetically honest about who you are, the way that you're able to share your journey, but also highlight the journey and the struggles of others. I absolutely love it so much. And we're doing this podcast for the first time. It's my first time trying this outdoors. It's kind of outdoors. Hopefully it works out.
It'll work out.
Because it's supposed to work out. I feel like that's the journey. For anyone that's not aware, Shawn Ryan is former special ops, former CIA contractor, former certified badass. Probably done a lot of things in life that most of us can't even fathom. I think that gives you ultimate perspective. And he interviews some of the most interesting people in the world. And not most podcasters interview only famous people. You don't do that. Not really. You highlight people that have interesting stories.
Do you like famous people?
I hate famous people.
I mean, do you find that interesting? How'd you make it? Well, I met a manager and he got me a deal and the rest is history. Cool. Great story. Next.
Yeah.
You know.
But you're one of the largest podcasts in the country. And you're the only one at the top of the charts not interviewing other famous people.
Well, I just do what I'm interested in. Kind of like, I think that's what you do. You know, I started thinking, oh, I need to get more famous people. I need to get a booking agent that has all the connections. But then you look, like I tried to get Dr. Phil. Didn't work out. You know, he wanted.
I can't believe Dr. Phil said no to you.
Well, he didn't necessarily say. I don't know what happened. I wasn't doing the reach out, and I'm not. This isn't a hit on him, but you know, I see it, and I'm like, ooh, he's got some cool stuff to say.
Yeah.
And then you see him on another podcast, and then you see him on another podcast, and then you see, it's like, okay, he said the same shit on 6 different shows in 1 week. That's not going to make you different. You're just doing what people do and going after the. I mean, it's just it's the set. It's it's the typical thing.
Yeah.
You get celebrities and then you get in and you can only. I mean, you're going to hit the ceiling doing that, and I just have no interest in regurgitated conversation.
I love that when I watch a podcast episode of yours, I get introduced to something new. Because again, most people, you've seen them talk other places, they're regurgitating and they're recycling talking points. And then I watch a Shawn Ryan Show episode. I'm like, I've never thought about that. I don't know who this person is. This story and this episode is fascinating. And you take your time with them. It's not 1 hour, get your points across, this is where we're going to hit and let's go. It's we're going to start here and let's see where this thing goes. And sometimes you go 3-4 hours.
Oh, man, we've gone 9 hours.
9 hours.
We've gone 9 hours. Yeah. True story. I think it was Bob Porras, the CIA guy.
How many breaks do you take in a 9 hour?
Well, that one, I can't remember if we knocked that all out in one day. Sometimes we'll come back the next day. Tom Satterley, that was a 2-day interview. I did the Blackwater guys. I don't know if the guys that got sentenced to 33 of them got 35 years in prison. One of them got life in prison. Then they got pardoned by Trump. Nobody gave them an outlet to get their side of the story out, of course. Mainstream media narrative, which, wound up being complete bullshit. But that was a 2-day interview. But I just feel like you have to. I'm not a talking points guy, and like we get people to. It's like a therapy session.
Yeah.
And you got to take your time with that and you build confidence and trust in the guest, as the interview moves on and it's almost like peeling back an onion, man. It's just they start getting comfortable and then things start coming out and it turns into something beautiful.
Last time I was in Franklin, I visited your studio. And while you were showing me kind of the memorabilia on the wall, I mentioned to you that it felt heavy. Actually, the reality is I thought I had food poisoning. I was feeling so sick. At a certain point, I was about to tell you, dude, I feel like I need to sit down because I feel like I'm going to pass out. It felt that heavy in that room. And it's a feeling that I couldn't describe. And you were explaining to me, and I was sitting there, and I started kind of leaning on the chair. And I've never felt like that before, just like this weight on my shoulders of just this heaviness. And we sat down, and you started explaining to me kind of why you do what you do. And within 5 minutes, that entire feeling of this food poisoning feeling that I had, it was lifted. I've never experienced something like that before. It's just the weight of the stories that you've heard and the shared experience and the memorabilia that has this experience kind of built into the physical item. You could feel that energy. How do you deal with that on a daily basis, just knowing that that is around you all the time?
I compartmentalize. That's just what I do. I mean, I probably learned it back in the military, but I'm very good at compartmentalizing. But I mean, no joke. Like the show it's taken a toll on my mental health, and I mean, right before we started this, I was talking to Johnny about my psychedelics journey, and that led to my faith, which me and you have talked pretty extensively about, and it took me a long time to get the right team behind me, to support me, and we all support each other, and so it's like a big family over at our studio and with everybody that's involved. We all take care of each other. We all watch out for each other. If somebody's, because these stories are heavy, man. They are. They don't just affect me. They affect the guys that edit it. They affect the guys that cut the reels and shit for social media. Like, everybody has to hear this, and they realize, like, how fucked up our country is, or how bad, it actually is for veterans that are returning home, or I mean, the sex trafficking stuff that's come out, and watching a 22-year-old guy, Tyler Andrew Vargas, hobble up those stairs with one leg and one arm because the current administration is completely incompetent. Maybe it's you know what I'm getting at. They're heavy stories, and it's reality. And so I'm always looking, to how can I improve my mental health, and it's been a progression.
What are some maybe tips that you've worked for you that maybe other people could think about or maybe even explore?
For just mental health in general?
Yeah, like how do you keep your shit together?
Well, you gotta, man, that's a tough question. But, for believers, for anybody, like you gotta put it on God, and you gotta realize you can't change everything. All you can do really is plant a seed in people's heads. And once that seed has been planted and you see it start to spread, then your job is done, and it's time to move on to the next thing. There's no shortage of things that need to be brought to the light, both good and bad. You got to highlight the good and you got to highlight the bad. And once that job has been done, it's on to the next thing. I don't spend much time looking in the rearview mirror on success, failures, traumatic events. You just one foot in front of the other, keep moving forward, and look for the next thing to accomplish.
How important is success to you?
Well, what do you mean by that?
I mean, you said you got to look at your success, going 1 foot forward, trying to improve every day, trying to highlight stories. How much of what you're doing is, I want this to be successful, I want to grow, versus I want to inform or I want to help others? I mean, where do you find that balance?
Why are you asking all these tough questions? How do I find a balance with, or how do how important is success to me. I mean, there's so many different kinds of success. There's success of the show. There's successful interviews. There's financial success. There's all these things, and when it comes to like success of an episode, number one, like I quit paying attention to what I think people want me to do a long time ago. Actually, that was one of the first things that went away after my psychedelics thing. Not that I ever really fell into that, but my podcast started only as talking to former colleagues of mine that were within the agency or some type of a special ops unit. And I got, I can't talk about the same subject over and over and over enough, until I'm bored. And so I'm like, I'm going to dive into this cartel stuff and try to get to the bottom of some of that. I'm going to dive into the Blackwater massacre and figure out why these guys have never been given the opportunity to get their side of the story out. And so I just go with what I'm interested in, because I don't think success is just whoring yourself out for what you think your audience wants. I do what I'm interested in. If I'm not interested in it, I don't take the interview. I don't even care like how big the name is. I'll get requests all the time from A-list, insert A-list celebrity, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but what are we going to talk about? Like, I know who you are, and I know you have 20 million people on your accounts, and yeah, it'll probably get some views, but like, what am I going to learn out of this? And do you just want to sell your record? Or are you going to get vulnerable and like give people, inspire people, talk about your hardships and how you got through them? Or are we just going to brag about the fucking cars that you drive and oh, you're a big business Mongol, and you know what I'm talking about? It's like, cool, now we know everything you have. Cool. What kind of fucking person are you? And
I've had some of those interviews where people come in and I think it's going to be interesting, and they show up and they literally just selling themselves for an hour or 2 hours. And afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, when's it going to go live? I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm done. I have no interest. I listened to like 30 minutes of it. I actually stopped editing, and I'm just not dealing with this, because even afterwards, I'm like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
It just doesn't provide value to anybody listening. I don't want to listen to it again, because I edited all my own stuff. So I got to listen to it again. I'm like, this is torture. Yeah. I have no interest in doing this again. I only got 30 minutes in. Like, if I can only get 30 minutes and I'm physically there, no one's going to care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't stay on when it comes to like successful interviews. I'm always challenging myself too, and I don't try to find like the thing and then hammer that topic out forever, and do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that one hit. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do the same. I'm not a one-trick pony, or whatever they call that, but I just go with what I'm interested in, and I stay true to my audience, meaning I'm not out there for, like, I haven't had a episode over the Trump assassination thing. Everybody's doing it. I saw major podcasters, and they're just getting every damn special ops guy they possibly can, and CIA guy, and it's like, what's the inside? Hey, dude, nobody fucking knows.
And it's going to be like JFK. We're going to find out in 100 years.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like, I don't do the, I'm not going to say it's clickbait, and I'm not even going to say it's not important, because it's obviously important for people to cover that, but I'm kind of the guy that goes the opposite direction. Like, do what I want to do. Yeah, I do have somebody coming on to talk about that, but I want to give it a little breathing room for hopefully something will come out that's actually interesting other than just all this bullshit.
A lot of internet sleuths out there.
Yeah.
Doing diagrams and caliber and angles and
But yeah, I go after stuff that people aren't talking about, because it's different. It's new. It's not easy.
One of the topics that you spent a lot of time on is Afghanistan. you've served, you've been to Afghanistan, you fought in Afghanistan. You have interviewed several people that have been a part of the withdrawal, that have been a part of kind of everything that's happened, I'm going to say in the last 2 years, 3 years since the withdrawal. And you've uncovered a lot of truths. Almost, I feel like you're the first person I heard talking about the fact that we're sending between 40 and 87 million dollars a week to the Taliban. And I don't think that even gets enough play.
It doesn't.
Well, I guess I want to start at the beginning then. What kind of spurred your journey into kind of picking away and uncovering truths about Afghanistan?
Well, I mean, it's personal for me too. You know, I mean, I was over there with both the SEAL teams and the agency. Don't hold the agency shit against me, but
because everyone says, "Oh, Shawn Ryan's from the agency, like he's a psyop,
the mole." But
he's the mole, he's a psyop.
You can't be trusted. But I mean, I fought with those guys, you know, and so when people like we went in there to. We weren't at war with Afghanistan. I think there's still a lot of people that think we were at war with Afghanistan. No, we were at war in Afghanistan, but alongside with them. And so we had a partner force that we spent, 20 plus years training, fighting next to, bleeding next to. And, anybody that listens to my show, I mean, you hear like how hard guys like me have it with all that we experience when we come home, and post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injuries and all the other shit that goes on over there, Well, we come home after 6 months. Those guys, that's 20 plus years of war straight. They live there. We trained them. We bled with them. And the way we pulled out, I'm not saying we should never pull out of there, but the way we pulled out was, I mean, we abandoned those people, in a lot of different ways. And I mean, for example, like we left, everybody knows we all left all the equipment there. We turned over all the bases. I mean, Taliban now has all of our stuff. And it was like, well, why didn't the partner force just fight them off? Well, because the partner force was a very elite group of guys. And, I mean, their president abandoned them. The president abandoned them. Like, he snuck out. And this guy, Solly, took it over. But when we left there, I mean, there was no classified material destroyed. So we have paste, even my stuff's out in the open. I mean, I have former agency guys that are calling me up that are saying, hey, like, I just want you to know that they just took this base and none of the classified documents have been destroyed there, and your name and all kinds of other information may still be at that base. So I just want you to know that. And by the way, now Taliban's posing as resistance, our old partner force. They're posing as that on social media, hitting guys like me up, saying, hey, we were part of the partner force, come extract us. Well, now you have Taliban doing that. On top of, so even we left all the biometric information, we left the pay stub information, we left the rosters, we left everything. So now, like, here's an example. We used to have these hand cameras, right? And, we would go over there. We're working with hundreds of Afghan fighters at different various locations. It gets hard to tell, I don't care whatever insert ethnic group, if you're not part of that ethnic group, they all look the same. They're all wearing the exact same uniform. They're all of Afghan descent. Yeah. And they all look very similar. So one of the ways we would ID them to make sure there wasn't some type of a plant inside there, or Taliban, Al-Qaeda, insert terrorist organization, put somebody in the ranks that we're not going to see that. So we would have like these cameras. You take a picture, it scans the retina. So every morning there would be a security force that would, as these guys come in for training or on base, they would be photographed, and the device would tell you, oh, yeah, this is him, this is him, this is him. Oh, that retina doesn't match. We don't know who this is. And we would also take these cameras on targets too, to take pictures of prisoners, of terrorists, and they go in the database. And so it's basically green go, red bad, right? Well, we left all that shit. And so now they can go door to door to door. Taliban can go door to door to door. You worked with the Americans. Take his daughters out back, rape them. Take his wife out, rape her, murder her. Have him watch. When we're done with this, kill him too. Yeah, that's what we did. That's what the United States did to our allies. We fucking abandoned them, and now all of that is happening. They're hunting these guys down door to door to door, raping their women, raping their daughters, and then killing them. They'll line them up in a line. I got videos of this stuff. It would be awesome if you inserted them, although it gets shut down. But people need to see that shit, and they need to know what we did, what we as a country did to those people. And it continues to happen every second.
Why? Why do we leave the situation that it is? I mean, maybe we don't know the exact answer, but you have some perspective. What do you think the reason behind that is?
I mean, it's speculation. I mean, it's not like I have a red line into Joe Biden and why did you do this? But, I mean, I think there's the incompetency, which we all see. We all know he's not, somebody's pulling the strings. I don't know who. You don't know who. Maybe you do. I don't think you do. But so maybe it was incompetence. I'm not really buying that. We all know Biden administration has several ties to China. China's pretty much leading the green initiative for the U.S. They manufacture all our solar panels. They manufacture all our wind turbines. They manufacture lithium batteries. Guess where one of the biggest deposits of lithium is in the world? Afghanistan. Why would we leave those resources there? Why would we leave those resources there when all you hear is this green initiative? Dude, I'm not even that against the green initiative. I mean, I would like a clean planet. I mean, look at all the cancers and shit, all these diseases that we have that are they're not even organic diseases. It's shit coming from plastics, from batteries, anyways, whatever. That's a whole nother subject. But, so maybe there was some backdoor deal done with the Chinese saying, hey, yeah, we'll leave. You take over Bagram. Oh, by the way, they have taken over Bagram. It's the most strategic air base in the Middle East. And now they run it. Now they're mining lithium right out of the ground in our where we occupied just to go back, make batteries, and sell it to us? I'm sorry, what the fuck is that? I thought we were hot on this green initiative shit. I thought green initiative was going to make us self-sufficient on the power grid. How the fuck are we self-sufficient if we're importing all of our batteries, all of our solar panels, all the wind turbines? I mean, even the regular power grid right now, we import the transformers.
If you could redo the Afghan withdrawal, how do you think you would have handled it?
I think I would have handled it in steps and an actual plan, and not just, hey guys, we're going to pull the plug today. I mean, everybody knew it was going to happen. We're not going to be there forever. I think we should have left at least a couple of bases there, just like we did after World War II, all over Europe and Japan, right?
I mean, there are 40,000 troops still in Japan, 30,000 troops still in Korea.
Yeah.
Leave troops and bases behind all the time.
Like we leave no footprint in a territory that we occupied for over 20 years with one of the biggest lithium deposits in the fucking world. Sorry about my...
Yeah, I don't
My
understand
F-bombs.
why they would do that. I mean, I get maybe China, but the resources have so much value.
I mean, there's also Taliban sympathizers within the U.S. government.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's how we're sending $40 to $87 million a week to the Taliban, as we have sympathizers within our government. It's very much like the cartel. I mean, they're a very sophisticated network. I mean, yeah, when you see them on the news, yeah, it's some guys wearing a man dress and flip-flops with an AK-47, and they basically look like they just walked out of a cave, because they did. But guess what? I mean, we were there for 20 years. They're sophisticated.
Yeah.
It took us a minute to find bin Laden. We didn't win. Look at that. It was a total loss.
And who benefits?
And so what I'm saying is, just like the cartels, they start embedding in governments. They have an intelligence organization. I think it's called GDI. Is basically Taliban's version of CIA. They have propagandists. They have all of these different departments within the terrorist group.
In your interview with Ahmad Mossad, he said that the Taliban is generating something like $2.5 billion a year in revenue, not including their drug muling, not including maybe that's just on the books. They're doing $2.5 billion a year, and on top of that, we're sending. He said 70 million. He didn't like your 40 to 87 million.
Yeah, I think
he kept us saying
70 to 80 million.
Yeah, they're very well funded.
Yeah, we're funding them. I mean, that $1 billion of that is us.
That's wild. And that's American tax dollars. Most people have no idea. We just keep on funding all these wars. We keep on funding it. We leave them in worse condition than we find them almost every single time. I can't think of one war where we left the country better.
Me neither.
And you fought in the wars. And that's... How do you feel like veterans are dealing with that? Because up to maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I think most veterans thought what they did was the right thing to do. With technology and us having more information, a lot of people are like, damn, I can't believe I participated in that, which sucks.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't have that feeling. I mean, people sacrifice their life, they risk their lives to fight for what they think is a greater cause. And then to come to the realization later on that, man, I don't know if we actually helped them.
Well, I don't think we helped them, and I don't think America had anybody's best interest but the military-industrial complex. But what I will say to anybody that did fight over there is, you did see what those terrorist organizations are capable of. They were cutting our heads off. They were dismembering us. And, yeah, were we on their turf? Absolutely. But what also happened, we also saw them do that to people in their own country. And so we also were able to give the Afghan people a glimpse of what freedom looks like. The women started going to school. Girls started going to school. Voting. I mean, before we went in there, it was under Taliban law, and you would get your head chopped off if you were playing pool. I'm not joking. Like, that's the kind of ship that they run. And so when women started going to universities, women could vote. Little girls started going to school. They started getting more sophisticated. They got a small taste of what freedom could actually be like. And they wouldn't have gotten that had we not been there. And so that gives the resistance that's still trying to fend off the Taliban, I mean, it gives them hope. They know what it could be if they eliminate the Taliban and take possession of the country again.
Your story of Afghanistan culminates at this big interview, which I listened to on the way here. Fascinating. Number one, he is extremely well-spoken. I was shocked. I didn't think he'd be as well-spoken, as articulate as maybe I envisioned in my mind. And I loved some of his ideas. The idea of shifting from the way that they have been doing it, feeling trapped in this valley and adjusting the way that they're fighting. And the most important thing that I saw was that they were shifting to almost a propaganda war themselves, that they are trying to give people hope because otherwise people would quit and the people on their side would quit. And how do we get the messaging out that there is a chance that we are still fighting? Because the Taliban has their propaganda mechanism that's going on to the world, trying to tell people, we've won, you guys are screwed, there's nothing you guys can do about it, like comply, shut up and comply. And they are working on the messaging part, which kind of brings me to this idea that we are no longer people are fighting, people are dying, but really at the end of the day, everything is a war of information and propaganda, which I think you're a very big part of because you're trying to challenge narratives out there. But there's this huge shift between physical war and digital war. Where do you think that goes as far as maybe military and maybe other veterans or other soldiers currently out there that are training to fight in physical war? But I think at this point we know that war is digital.
Well, I think part of the reason that they're doing the digital war is they don't have the assets to conquer and hold. Do you know what I mean? And so they have to keep spreading hope because they need people to join the resistance, and that's happening. But when they don't have the ammunition, they don't have the firepower, they can gain ground, but then to hold that ground, it's impossible because they're outgunned because we gave the Taliban all of our assets. Do you know what I mean? And so I think if the playing field starts to level out a little bit, even if we just quit funding them with $1 billion a year, they'll start taking ground again.
Because when I hear that, and I was listening to it, I was like, man, a part of me said, man, we should help them. And then the other part's like, I'm pretty against funding other wars at this point.
Well, the funny thing is they're not asking for help. They're just asking, please just stop funding the enemy that you fought for 20 years. That's all they're asking. They're not asking for us to come back in and occupy. They're not asking for supplies. All they're asking is just keep your $1 billion a year. Go spend it somewhere else. Please don't fund the enemy anymore.
Because when I think about the Ukraine and Russian war, we are actively funding and supporting with immense funds, with immense resources, the Ukrainian side. Is that different than this situation where they want to fund where we funded and we fought in Afghanistan? How is that different? Because one would argue that we're still helping another country and that they are being taken over by a larger country. Where do you sit on the Russia-Ukraine war?
Oh, I think it's a money laundering scheme. I don't even follow it anymore because it's so absurd.
Because there are people in Ukraine that say, well, we're being oppressed and it's difficult and they're supposed to help us because you guys helped Afghanistan and you were there for 20 years. How can you not be here for 5 years? I mean, kind of get that. Not really. I don't think we should.
Not really. We went into Afghanistan because the World Trade Center got fucking hit by 2 planes and killed thousands of people. That's why we went in there. I don't know why we went into Ukraine.
I don't know.
That could have been a simple real estate transaction. Those people don't want to be a part of Ukraine. Putin wants them. How about you just pay them and take the land? And then maybe build some more infrastructure in your country. Because there obviously isn't much.
9/11. I remember when I said, I'm going to talk to Shawn Ryan. And a bunch of people messaged me and said, you got to ask him because he's talking about a potential terrorist attack in the United States with the episode that you did with Ahmad Massoud. And you guys referenced the warning before 9/11. And they said, they're talking about a potential terrorist attack, but they don't want to recognize that 9/11 was an inside job. That's the theory of a lot of people. I have no idea what happened in 9/11. Everyone has their own theory on it. Where do you stand on 9/11?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious it could have been prevented. I mean, I didn't even realize Putin warned us as well.
Yeah.
Until I did the interview with Masood. And so Masood warned us, that fell on deaf ears. Putin warned us, that obviously fell on deaf ears. I mean, inside job, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't have any insight to that you don't have access to. I think the Building 7 thing is really strange.
Weird.
That the reporter, they wouldn't, big surprise, YouTube wouldn't, they didn't want us to run that, right? They got the old demonetization thing, which probably means you're going to get censored. And I was like, no, fuck that. We're keeping it in. Send it out. I don't care. But, the reporter was there. I can't remember how many minutes before it fell. She's in front of the building. By the way, you can't find that anywhere.
It's
I don't
really
know how
difficult to
my
find
editor
now.
found it. But it was on some...
Obscure.
It sure as hell wasn't on BBC where it was reported from, right? But, he found it, and there's sure as shit, there's the BBC reporter right in front of Building 7 talking about how it had already fallen before it had fell. Like, how does that happen? How does it happen? Like, what, is she a prophet? I don't know. It obviously could have been prevented, so maybe they allowed it to happen. Maybe they allowed the assassination attempt on Trump to happen. Maybe they allowed Epstein to kill himself by relaxing security. Maybe J6 was not necessarily encouraged, but they allowed it to happen. I mean, it was like a month ago when it came out that Pelosi decided they didn't need the National Guard that day. So whose fucking fault is that really?
I think a lot of people think that if it's an inside job or it's a psyop or whatever term or moniker you want to use, that they actively create that exact situation. I think that they wait for opportunities, wait for situations, and allow them to happen. If they say, oh, that person is a plant and they were made to be famous. No, I think that they wait for someone that has virality, wait for someone to get kind of famous, get people's attention, and they knock on their door and say, hey, like, why don't you agree with us? Or why don't you take our side? I don't think they create. I think that's very high risk. I think that's very expensive to create psyops from the very beginning. I think you wait for an opportunity and you capitalize on potential opportunities by allowing them to happen or infiltrating it towards the end or after the fact. I think that's how it works. I think it'd be very difficult to start. Just knowing how the U.S. government works, to think that they have 20-year plans to create a psyop for someone, hoping that everything works out according to the plan.
I don't
illogical.
think it's necessarily the U.S. government. I think it's the... I think that they are... I think there is a lot of U.S. government that is involved with deep state, not realizing they are involved with deep state. Does that make sense? And so it's... compartmentalization of all these things is very key. And so, especially when you're in the middle of it, like, for example, like, everybody thinks because I was a contractor at CIA, they think that I have insight into the JFK assassination and are there aliens on the moon and... Dude, I don't have access to any of that shit. The way classified programs and agencies work is you have a need to know. I could have the top security clearance in the world, and just because, but it would be on this particular thing. So let's say, okay, you have a top security clearance, you have a TS/SCI clearance with a polygraph and full scope poly, and you're hunting bin Laden. I can't just be like, you know what, I know I have this clearance and my whole job is to hunt down and kill bin Laden, but I want to know about the JFK assassination. So I'm just going to walk over to this office and be like, hey guys, give me the files. Like, that's not how it works. You have to have a need to know. And so you have to have the clearance level and you have the need to know. Well, why do you need to know this? And that's not determined by you. That's determined by somebody higher than you. And you see what I'm getting at? So everything's, and then you're busy. You're busy hunting down bin Laden. So you don't even have time. You're doing your very small piece out of something that's multi-organizational task. Or, you know what I mean? The CIA, the FBI, the SEAL teams, the Green Berets, Delta, Team 6, the State Department. Everybody's got their piece. The DIA, the NSA, the CIA, you know, everybody's got a very small piece, and it keeps you very busy, and you're just doing your little piece the best that you can because you think it's not until later on that you're not in it anymore when you can get more of a 30,000-foot view of what's happening and piece all these different things together and go, oh, shit.
Do you think it is a dedicated group of people that are playing with all these different roles and responsibilities of different people and organizing kind of the chaos that we're seeing? Or do you think it is a result of just the organism and the administration or the establishment as it is? And because of all the compartmentalization that we actually don't have direction and things are kind of falling apart. I mean, do you think it's intentional versus just a product of kind of what we've created?
I think it's both. I think it's both.
Because
What
a lot
do you
of
think?
I think, how do you fight an enemy if you don't know who the enemy is? I think that all the time. Because there is someone out there or a force or something over in the world that is creating the direction of what we're fighting against. If that's a person, if it's a group of people, if it is a evil spirit, whatever it is, the fact that we don't know makes it extremely difficult to fight. I think if we ever know, then you'd see a rally of people going, okay, we have a common enemy, let's go up against them. I think that's the hardest part of it. And I think that's why there's chaos, because we don't know who we're fighting. But there's clearly something that we're all fighting against. We just have no idea what that is. If it's chance, if it's coincidence.
We're fighting a bunch of people that have a leash around their neck. I think what's actually happening, and I think this is a big part of what's happening, and a lot of people are probably going to hate this, I think that capitalism is being used against itself. And so you look at some of these everybody in D.C., right? How many of these guys have companies, have Chinese companies? Well, that's a communist country. So Mitch McConnell, for instance, they have that big shipping company, right? That goes it's a Chinese shipping company, ships goods back and forth to the U.S. all the time. All China has to do is snap their fingers, and now that multi-million-dollar company that Mitch McConnell and his wife own is now gone. So do what we tell you, vote the way we tell you, or your multi-million-dollar company is gone. It's that simple.
I think in the last 10, 15 years, I feel like our country has been led by greed. And I think that's kind of why we've become the way we are, because everyone's so greedy. Everyone wants to maximize everything. I think the best people that are competent, that could have been leaders, focused on making as much money as possible rather than focus on things that may be in better society.
Yeah.
I think all the best men put their energy in greed. But that's been kind of, I guess, evil spirit that's been looking over the country and looking over the world. My biggest fear is that with the Trump assassination attempt, that we're going to shift from a greed-based society to a retribution and vengeance-based society. Because one evil spirit that kind of overlooks the entire world is pride. Pride is always the downfall of all men. There's a reason why it's number one. It's the first deadly sin. Just like the freedom of speech is the most important because that's why it's first. Pride is the most dangerous. That's why that's first. And we've all been consumed with pride. That's something that all men fight with. And pride is the downfall of all great men. But the secondary spirit has been greed. My fear is that with the Trump assassination attempt, we're going to move from a greed-based society to a retribution-based society. And I think that's even more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
People are pissed.
I think you're right, you know, and I have a small circle of people that I call to give me a reality check. Because I also realize the majority of my adult life was spent in war, in combat, in extreme paranoia because I'm spying on people, and you know my background, and so I'm always thinking, okay, am I overreacting here? I see it plain as day, but maybe I'm a little over the top. Maybe I'm a little over paranoid. Maybe, but on the other hand, I see things that a lot of other people don't see, and so I called a really good friend of mine who's an attorney who always has a different perspective and a very level head on this kind of stuff. And so I called him that night, and because I think that was, I don't think that was a lone gunman. I don't see how, I mean, I've been a part of Secret Service operations, sniper Overwatch, multiple times. That was a very easy venue
One
to
building.
cover, and I don't see how that got dropped, especially after the warnings and everything. And he was saying, well, let's hope. I probably shouldn't even be saying this shit, but I said, well, where do we go from here? You know? And he goes, well, I think we have two ways. There's hopefully what happens is the government reforms and they realize that they've made a major mistake with the media hype and all these things, or somebody does something stupid. And I said, I got to be honest. Like we've been saying, hopefully nobody does something stupid for a long time, and I'm not condoning any type of violence, but I do question. I go, well, at what point is it not stupid anymore? The government is not functioning. Our border is wide open. Our land is for sale from foreign countries. China's buying all kinds of shit. We got cartels running fentanyl and kids and cash and everything you can think of up through our border. Now they're infiltrating our government and our police organizations. I mean, they're getting in at the local levels. The spending is absolutely out of control with the money going to Ukraine. The Afghan withdrawal was a complete disaster. We can't fill the military. The police departments are completely fucking ruined. The crime in liberal cities is it's out of control. Chicago's more dangerous than Iraq or Afghanistan. People don't have clean water. The fucking government is not functioning. So why is that so stupid all of a sudden? Or why is that still stupid? Do you have any faith that the fucking government's going to reform? That they're going to fix this shit? The director of Civic Service is still there. The president, a former president, just got shot in the head, and the director of Secret Service is still there. So what I think needs to happen, everybody, you have to get it in the comments. It gives me anxiety every time I read it. When the fuck are we going to do something? Well, yes, it is doing something stupid if you just do a knee-jerk reaction. But what needs to happen is these fucking governors need to get together and figure out how to stop this shit. Like, they're the leaders. You got elected. We're looking to you to figure this shit out because the federal government is not functioning at all. It's gone.
What does that look like?
I think it looks just like what I said. It looks like the governors who don't agree with the shit that the federal government is doing, getting together and coming up with some type of a plan, getting advisors, all of that. This is ridiculous. We're gone. We don't even have a country right now.
In order to organize something like that, it requires someone to lead that charge, to gather up state governors, to even create that type of situation, to even start that conversation. It probably wouldn't be a governor to do it because they'd be at risk. They would be, I feel like the federal government would consider it treasonous. It would take someone that's really willing to risk their life, knowing that even trying to start something like that would put an immediate target in their head. And we know, I mean, especially through some of the conversations they have, that they listen to everything. They know everything going on. They track everything. How does that even happen? Does it have to be just the most guerrilla undercover thing ever? And just even trying to organize, even having that thought, feel like, hey, FBI, like we're just having a conversation. You know, it's like that type of situation. What does that even look like?
You would have to start with some type of a communications platform that you can trust. That's how that would start. So that probably means in person, underground, closed doors.
That's a scary thought.
Is it? Or do we continue down this road? What's more scary to you?
I mean, you sent me this morning the story about California, Bill 1955, where teachers are not allowed to tell the parents of children if they are transitioning, if they want to change their sex, that it is their responsibility to guide them, teach them, and that you as a parent have no right to know. And I thought about that this morning. It's wild. It's wild that the state, the government, that they are trying to take control of your families, of your kids, that they are trying to tell you how to raise your family. No, they're my kids, not your kids. They are trying to replace the father. They are trying to replace God. They are trying to become the head of everything. And they are specifically getting involved in your family's life, in your personal life. The federal government is supposed to settle disputes between states. The federal government is supposed to protect our borders. That's kind of why they exist, to do those two things. That's number one. Number two, if you can't do those two things, then you shouldn't be doing everything else. But people are fueled by greed. People are fueled by this desire for more power.
I think it's already happening and you just don't realize it. I think it's already happening. These governors are starting to band together. I mean, look at how fast open carry spread, where you don't need a permit to carry a gun. It's like, isn't it like 26 states now all of a sudden just did away with it? They're arming their people. The abortion debate, I mean, there's no middle ground anymore. Tennessee, I think there's zero abortions here. That's a little, like, for me personally, that's a little extreme, I think. I mean, sorry, man, but if your daughter goes to the inner city and gets raped and gets pregnant, are you going to raise that kid?
Don't even want to think about it.
Me neither. But I think that these laws are going to go so far right that it detours anybody. I mean, I just told you before we started this, there's several neighborhoods in here, but there's 60% California neighborhoods in this town. 60%. It's driven the prices up. People can't even afford to live here anymore. Shit, I can barely afford to live here. My attorney had to leave. An attorney can't afford to live here anymore because these people are coming in and just raising the prices. Things are starting to change around here. And I think that these far right conservative laws are a deterrent to leftists that want to come in and take control of this state. Because I do think all that shit was engineered. There's definitely a migration going on in the country. I mean, you've been traveling around all over the place. Every state I go to is complaining about Californians. Montana can't stand them. Utah can't stand them. Tennessee can't stand them. Florida can't stand them. Arizona can't stand them. Missouri can't stand them. Texas can't stand them. What's the big saying? Every state you go to, don't California my Tennessee. Don't California my Franklin. Don't California my Texas. And so I think that's what's happening. I think that we're going to get far-right laws because we don't want these people. And I'm not saying everybody in California is a flaming, idiotic liberal that wants to chop an 8-year-old's dick off and not ask the parents if that's okay. I don't. That's what they are scared of because that's where it's all coming from, right?
When I was in Moscow, Idaho recently, there was this. It's a college town, so there are a lot of extremely liberal people there. I feel like Moscow is a huge red state, and there's this bright blue dot right in this town, Moscow, Idaho. They are walking up and down the street. It's stereotypical, like exactly what you would envision the ultra left to be. In that same city is the ultra right, ultra conservative, ultra right, a Christian nationalist type. And I went to go see that far right side. Walking up and down the street of that city, it was spotless. It was clean. Typically, when you go to any city in the world, or any city, especially in America, and it's that much percentage of ultra liberal, typically you run into homelessness, drug use, etc. Graffiti. Cities are not clean. That happens to be everywhere in the country. I've been everywhere at this point. This city, with the amount of ultra left, every type of letter of the alphabet population, huge population there, the city was spotless. And I wondered why. Why is that? Why is that true? How is that even a possibility? And it occurred to me. It hit me. It's because the right there is so hard right that it balances out the hard left. And actually that Overton window sits somewhere in the middle. Conservatives have been so lukewarm conservative, kind of conservative, very accepting of different ideas, maybe too much so, that the window has shifted very left of center. Even the Republican Party, if you've been watching the RNC at all, it's actually not very conservative at all. It is extremely liberal. And for people who say MAGA and the GOP is too conservative, no. They are really the Democratic Party of old. There is no more conservative side. And because of that, all of policies and all of society has shifted way left. I think there has to actually be a movement for people to stay strong in their values and core beliefs, because that creates the balance that's required, that there is no give on either side. And when both sides are at their extreme, we sit somewhere in the center. Mm-hmm. I think we've given too much give. I think we've given too much acceptance, too much understanding. And I think that may be the problem, is that the left absolutely believes, as crazy as some of these weird ideologies are, they absolutely believe in it. Again, I don't agree with anything on that far left. It's kind of wild. But they believe it to their core. The people on the right, they kind of believe what they believe. They don't actually, most actually don't believe it that much. And I think we're seeing this shift of people going harder right. Maybe that's necessary. It's a deterrent to other places to protect what they've built.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I think these, like, I'm not saying what my stance is on abortion or what yours is, but a zero tolerance policy with abortion is a far right view, correct? And that's and also, I also believe that no gun permits. Like, I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm not saying I'm against it, but what I am saying is that's a far right view. And so you're seeing all these far right views start to happen in red states, and I think that I don't want to say it's creating division, but it's drawing the lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's drawing the lines. I mean, we're sending our National Guard. Tennessee sent the National Guard down to Texas to help secure that border because the federal government will not. And so that's what I kind of, brought up. The governors need to start having talks and backing each other up. And this is the way forward.
But even thinking about Texas and the border, remember in January, everyone was standing with Texas. People are pissed off. People are mad. Everyone was standing with Texas. All these states started sending National Guard to Texas. That anger and that we want to help attitude, it lasted maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, fizzled away. No one thinks about it anymore. No one talks about it anymore. Texas is kind of off on their own now, not in the national conversation any longer. People are pissed off about the border, but at this point, we've come to terms with it is what it is. And there is an apathy around it. We just accepted that that's a part of life now.
Did we accept it, or do we think we just accept it because the fucking media won't bring it up anymore?
Is it different?
I think it is different. It's still in everybody's head. We're talking about it.
Correct.
Lots of people are talking about it. Everywhere I go, people are talking about it. But they're not talking about it on the media because the media is controlled.
But even in social media, they don't really talk about it anymore. It's a talking point that when people are throwing out their distrust for this administration, there's a list of things that people say. Do you want your gas prices to be $5? And do you care that migrants are coming through the border and we have an open border policy? It's become a talking point. But as far as people, even independent media is concerned, the actual care in it, it's almost gone away. I think we've just accepted that it is what it is. I think that's a concern. I think that we get so inundated with a certain thing that we're told to be mad about it. We get really mad about it. We get so normalized to the idea of it. And then we kind of accept that that's a part of our life now. I almost feel like that's where we are. I mean, even on the campaign trail, it's a talking point. People, you have to hit the point. But as far as people really talking about it, it's casual conversation. The anger isn't there any longer. We've kind of accepted that that's our life. I think that's a problem with the way the media works, is that we think about things. They tell us what to think about. They tell us what to be mad about. We get mad about it. Once it goes through the news cycle on mainstream media and independent media, that sucks.
Yeah, well, we have a bunch of lazy citizens. Even when you give them a call to action. Here's an example. The petition.
Yes.
I had a petition created.
How did that go?
I mean, I think it's going pretty good. We'll probably get more signatures than anybody else. Last time I checked, we're like 45,000, I think. But 200 and something thousand people have listened to the interview. 350,000 people have watched the interview. Everybody's outraged. And we got 45,000 signatures. They can't even take the fucking time to click a link, put your name on a box, and hit send. If we had 350,000 signatures and everybody watched that and actually took it seriously, like, holy shit, we're funding terrorism and it's coming up through our southern border. If they took 5 seconds to click a fucking link, write their name on it so that I can get this to Representative McCall out of Texas, who's the chairman of the I'm drawing a blank, the foreign affairs committee. Guess what, man? When there's 350,000 signatures on that petition, you better fucking take action. Well, we got a bunch of lazy ass Americans who just want to watch fucking football and NASCAR and baseball and bitch and not take 5 seconds and click the fucking petition. I mean, what hope do we have? And they're the same people typing, what do we got to do about this? How about you get off your fat ass and sign the fucking petition?
But isn't that why we are where we are? It's because we think that the politicians are corrupt. We think the administration is corrupt. We think that there's a problem with the federal government, that maybe they need to be replaced. But the reality is that the federal government is incompetent and they make a lot of mistakes, whether intentional or not, because we as a society, we're okay with that. We actually allow it to happen. We elect broken people because we as a society are broken. We feel good that our leaders are corrupt because we're all kind of corrupt inside.
I don't know if I believe that. I think it's just laziness.
I mean,
look at Congress. Congress has what, a 90% disapproval rating and 90%, or they have a 10% approval rating and a 90% reelection rate.
yes.
That just proves it right there, you know? I mean,
I feel like something subconsciously within people like knowing that the politicians are corrupt and incompetent. It makes you feel better about your own life. These are the people that we elect to lead the country. And for some reason, if they are not great people, then we're okay with also not being great. If we had leaders that were proactive, that were in bettering society, that were selfless, that were doing better for the country, then that would mean I have to do the same. That would mean I have to get off my ass and do something. That would mean that I have to go out of my way to click a link. But they don't click the link. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
They just read talking points. So I'm going to do the same thing. It always makes it okay for me to live the way that I live because the people that we put in charge do it also. I almost feel like it's not the top of the system that's broken. I feel like we as a society are broken and therefore we elevate broken people. I feel like if we start from the bottom and we as a populace were to improve, take personal responsibility, improve the lives of the people around us, take that effort to do difficult things within ourselves, then all of a sudden, by comparison, the people that we elect or run will be like, no, we can't do that because it's so obvious now. They are broken. I am not. I'm very comfortable with where I am. I'm willing to click a link. I'm willing to go out of my way to better society. I can't, in good faith, put this guy in charge because compared to me and people around me, we're better. I think because people look around, they say, well, we're shit too. That guy doesn't seem that much shit. There's nothing to compare it to. I feel like it's not a top down. I think that society gets fixed by going bottom up. And I think that's very different than what a lot of people believe. And I think that's very different to what I used to believe. I used to think that we need to elect better people, that if we put better people in charge, that things will get better for us. I just don't believe that at all anymore. I think that we as a people need to improve and get better. And if we do, it will force better people to run for office.
maybe. I see what you're saying.
I think that's hard for a lot of people to deal with and think with, because that would mean that you as a person, as an individual, as an American citizen, maybe need to go through uncomfortable situations by yourself, knowing that no one else cares. It's really hard. But what if society were to live just a little bit more selflessly? To go out of the way and sacrifice the 2 minutes that it takes to click a link. People don't want to give up 2 minutes of their time. That's how little people care. People say they care. But imagine if people actually cared.
I think a lot of people feel helpless too. I mean, we have not seen any repercussions or consequences to anybody's actions in DC. None. Nothing. And so I think a lot of people are hopeless and they think, well, yeah, I hate this shit, but what am I going to do? They're not going to, like I said, I mean, even latest thing, Director of Secret Service, still in there. Nobody got fired. They just shot the former president in the head. Nobody got fired. Nobody. Oh, the FBI's doing the investigation. Great. The only thing FBI's good at is going after J6 protesters.
A lot of people will.
Like, what is the FBI uncovered on anything? The Vegas shooter, nothing. Epstein, nothing. Nothing. What are they preventing? The Parkland school shooting. Nope, they dropped the ball on that too.
We allow our leaders to hide behind secrets because we ourselves hide behind secrets. I think if people lived more honestly and with more of a genuine spirit, I think it would force them to do it. For example, with the Secret Service agent, the head of the Secret Service agent, this lady, I want to feel bad for her. I don't. People are upset, and people decided, I'm going to express my anger by clicking this one button that says retweet, and this is how I show that I'm angry.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll write 10 words. Should fire her. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
What if all the people that were really angry were so angry that they actually voiced their opinion individually, or maybe made their own post instead of retweeting? Little things that people, if 5 million people in the country all said, hey, something's wrong, she needs to be fired, and everyone was sending a letter and taking that extra step, then the government's like, hey, we need to address this. We are getting inundated with so many requests to look at this just like a petition. But if they say, oh, people are reposting and it's going viral, but they're just reposting, they're like, whatever, it'll die away in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because people don't care after 2 weeks. And the reality is in 2 weeks, no one's going to even talk about it anymore. People aren't willing to go out of their way. And if people aren't willing to go out of the way, why should our government go out of the way?
They can't be inconvenienced. That's where we're at.
And it's a tough place to be because we are constantly pushed more convenient ways to live your life. I think about the 9/11, the TSA all the time. All these people, we stand in line at the TSA, going to the airport, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, pissed off. And all these people, everyone says, I will never give the government my information. I will never give them my biometrics data. I will never let them. It's my information. It's my data. I don't want to give it to the government. It's not their right to do it. And they come out and they say, well, if you fill out this form and you give us all your biometric data and you agree to a background check and you sign all these forms, we'll give you a TSA pre-check and you can save 15 minutes of your time. And all the people that say, I will never give the government my data, they say, oh, I get 15 minutes of my time back? Oh, here you go. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
We willingly give it. It's very easy for them to control it, and we allow it to happen. Where's the pushback? If they rolled out this program and all the Americans and all the patriots to say, we will never comply, if they actually did that, maybe they don't get away with stuff that they do. Maybe they don't even try. This inherent need for us to be more comfortable, this spirit of greed, it rules our life. And again, my concern is that we're going to shift to a spirit of retribution. People are angry. People are mad. People make a mistake.
What do you think we should be doing?
I think we're supposed to be doing the opposite of what we think we should do. Always. I think if everyone tells you to be greedy, be selfless. If everyone tells you to be mad and angry and get revenge, maybe we should be more understanding and accepting. Be strict in our core belief and our core values.
How can you be more understanding and accepting of taking a 5-year-old kid and 5-year-old male and turning him into a female? How can you be more understanding and accepting to that?
I think we teach our parents to be better parents. Hold parents accountable to do what they're supposed to do. I think we've created a society where parents, we blame the school system for allowing this type of indoctrination within our kids.
Yeah, but this is an ideology.
Yeah, but
it's being forced on an entire population.
But if you raise your kids right, it shouldn't bother them. If you spend the time to educate your children, to explain to them what's going on in the world, if you spend the time with them, these outside forces actually don't matter that much. It's because parents use school as babysitting. We used YouTube and we use social media as babysitting. We want as much as most parents hate the public school system, we love the public school system because that means I don't have to watch them for 8 hours. We We say we are so against it, but we willingly give them over.
I mean, I would love to agree with you, but what do you say to a single mother who's waitressing 3 different jobs trying to make ends meet and she's got 2 kids?
I'm sorry. Life sucks.
How's she going to do it?
Family. There's people, there's community. I think communities need to be raising children together, not school systems, not government, especially not government. I think we have to help each other out. But God forbid that I watch my neighbor's kids because I know that she has 2 jobs and 2 kids that she will work with. How many people that live in the cities don't even know who their next door neighbor is anymore? We used to grow up now. Actually, where I live now, I love my neighbors. My daughter will go running into my neighbor's house. People don't even know who their next door neighbor is any longer. They say it takes community to raise a child, and that's true because a community is supposed to have a certain set of shared values. That's why you live together. That's why you live near each other.
But it doesn't have that anymore.
And that's why we need to bring that back.
But I'm just saying, you know, for somebody like me or you to hire somebody or whatever to help us or get family, that's different. But I mean, look at how many broken homes there are in the country. Look at how many people are living under the poverty line. They don't have those luxuries. I'm not saying all of them don't, but a lot of them don't. And a lot of people work their ass off just to try to make ends meet so that they can give their kids the best life they possibly can.
Correct. And that's the hard part of all of it. Sometimes it takes selfless sacrifice.
All I'm saying is I don't think it's as simple as just being more accepting.
Yeah, I think accepting is a really broad term. But if the government says we have a new government and they are honest, society is still broken. It's actually not going to improve much. Replacing the government actually doesn't improve society at all. Replacing the president, maybe it slows down the degradation of society a little bit. But say Trump ends up being the best president ever. Society is still on a downhill trend. It's not going to change it. These ideologies don't go away. The fact that we are boarding kids at a monumental rate won't change. Even if you pass laws, they'll just find places that allow it. Just the fact that half the country gets divorced every other day, that doesn't all of a sudden change. That creates broken homes. The president doesn't change the societal problems that we have. Society has to change the societal problems that we have. And then I think we end up with better leaders.
I'm with you. I am in no way saying that one man is going to change all of what's going on. It's impossible.
And I think that's, I worry because I think there are a lot of people in the country that think, okay, Trump's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to get in charge. And life is going to be good again. Sorry, guys. Sorry to break it to you. It's probably really similar to what you're living now. Maybe a little bit different. Maybe the narrative and what you hear on the internet will be different. But if you have a broken home, it's still going to be broken. If you have trouble, family problems within the household, they're not going to go away. If your kid is addicted to the phone and wants to spend more time playing video games and spend time having a conversation with your dad or with you, that doesn't change. And unless you change those problems, society actually won't improve at all. You can replace it with whoever you want at the top. I think that's a hard part. And I think a lot of it leads to the fact that I think this is a great opportunity because if anything, through the Trump assassination, for the first time in a really long time, a lot of people are having conversations about their faith, which is amazing. And we talk about it a lot. I think that's the thing that we connect the most on. I think it's great that men start having these conversations about their faith because having a core set of values that we all agree are the way we should live our life, maybe that's what brings balance back. I think society is broken, and I don't think politics saves it at all.
I don't either. I don't think politics fixes it. I think you're right on the money, and I think that's really what's going on. It's some biblical, spiritual stuff.
I think a lot of people want to say that God saved Trump, so therefore Trump is chosen and he will save America. I don't think that's the message people should be having. I think we have an opportunity where more people are thinking about God, more talking about God, more open about their belief structure. I think that's the opportunity that we've been given, that we should learn to take lessons from that rather than God save Trump so Trump's going to save America. I'd love to believe that. Makes it easy. I don't have to do anything. But the reality is that nothing's ever easy. And if we think it's the easy solution, you're going to be very disappointed. It's never the easy solution.
Yeah.
The best solution is always the most difficult one. You've had a really interesting transformation in the last year where your faith and your belief has become a big part of your life and a part of your show. Not something that you talked about a lot before. But now I feel like you interject it into almost every conversation. I squeeze it in there.
I squeeze it in.
How do you think that's affected you and maybe your audience and maybe some of the veterans that listen to you? I mean, they really look up to you.
I don't know if they look up to me.
They look up to you.
I think that they are glad that somebody's saying the things that I'm saying. And I got lucky enough to get some real exposure when nobody else was getting that. But I'm sorry, what was the question? How does faith affect my life now?
Your life, maybe your audience's life. I mean, what's the journey been like?
You know, we had kind of talked about, you know, planting the seed and moving on. And I think that this really helped me with letting things go, starting a conversation, planting a seed, and then realizing it's not my job to do anything else. I've presented an idea, and what happens with that idea, whether it gets life or not, is up to everybody that just listen to it. And also with all the things that I don't agree with that are happening, like the kids, what they're doing to kids these days with trafficking, with the surgeries. You know, I look at that stuff now, and it still makes me mad, makes me furious. But I look at it through a different lens now, and you know, like let's take example the Easter thing. Remember that they declared Easter Transvisibility Day or whatever. And so, yeah, then it came out, well, actually, this always been this day, and Easters fluctuate, right? So this is all just a coincidence. No, the fuck, it's not a coincidence. There were Easter bunnies and Easter eggs on the letterhead declaring Easter Transvisibility Day. So that was on purpose to get a rise out of people. And I look at this stuff, and this stuff, you know, I'm not an expert on the Bible, and I probably never will be. I'm not the guy that can just start quoting scripture that I read last night. I don't remember what I read 5 minutes ago, you know. And the Bible is very hard for me to decipher, but I do study it, and we do have a study at my house every week, and we talk about all these types of things, and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is all in that book. It's all been written before. And so when I see things like mocking Easter by putting Easter decorations on a letterhead that talks about Transvisibility Day, as furious as that makes me, it makes me realize how real all of this actually is. And it strengthens my relationship with God, because it's like, oh, we just talked about this subject 2 weeks ago in our study extensively, and now it's happening right in front of my eyes. And so I use that type of evil to confirm what is coming, what is happening, and what's written in that book. And it's like, holy shit, there it is, right there. It just happened. You know, it happens all the time now. And so that's another way it's affected me. And it's forced me to, well, not forced, but it's really helped me with learning forgiveness, which I'm beginning to realize, you know, that's not for, if you fuck me over or hurt me or something like that, and I forgive you, that's not for you. That's for me to set that rage down and not let it affect the way that I live, the way that my relationship is with my wife and kids. Does that make sense? It's no longer in my head. Once you can truly forgive somebody, it doesn't mean you like them, but you feel a certain sense of peace when you can let something go. That's no longer in my head. That's no longer consuming my thoughts. That's no longer overwhelming me with rage on what I want to do to that person behind closed doors. It's letting all that shit go so that you can be the best person that you're supposed to be for the ones that are closest to you.
We have our kids are my daughter and your son are approximately the same age, which is, I think, another reason why we've kind of connected, because we're older young dads. Right? Like, I imagine the day that we take our kids to school, maybe first grade, and we're gonna be the old guys.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's gonna be 10 or 15 years younger.
Yeah.
And by the time they go to college or whatever they decide to do in life, at high school graduation, we're really gonna be the old guys. I think that may be a blessing in a way. Do I wish that I had children earlier? Yes. Do I think I'd handle it differently? Definitely. I think that God gave me a child at the time I was supposed to have one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd be as attentive if I had one earlier. Actually, whatever I was pursuing at the time and whatever I was into would have probably been more important than my kid. I think that's how most people live their lives at a young age. I think it's really difficult. But when you have a child older, you kind of appreciate it a little bit more. Part of you is like, maybe I'm never going to have one, you know? And then you have one. And it changes the way you live your life. But you're going to be the old dad. How are you dealing with that?
I already am the old dad. I'm fine with it. You know, I look at younger parents. I mean, there's people there's 21-year-olds with kids my age or my kids' age. And I look at you just have so much more life experience being an older parent. And to be able to pass that on, I think it's a blessing. You know, I'm not going to be the 21-year-old dad running, you know, touchdown passes with my kid, most likely, and he'll probably be kicking my ass by the time he's 13. But the life experience, and I hate to say wisdom because I don't consider myself to be like a wise man, but you know what I'm getting at. We've learned things. We've been through things. Forgiveness. It couldn't even be. We would not be having this conversation if I was 25 years old talking about forgiveness. It would be, let's get on target and shoot more bad guys, or let's go to the bar, or let's go chase some very immature thinking. And so, to be a more mature parent, to be able to pass some of the life lessons that I've been able to experience because I've been around longer, I think is really going to benefit my kids.
Actually, I just thought about it. friend of mine told me it took him 12 years. But what he did was he read the entire Bible over the course of 12 years. And in the margin, and every time he read it, he left a note that's relevant to his child. And when he got done reading the whole Bible and left notes on every passage in the margin, he gave it to them.
It's a good idea.
It's almost like these life lessons that they can keep for the rest of their life, that they can go back to. One day you're there, you're not there, maybe they're off in college, and they're going to run into some sort of existential problem or crisis or something that they need more guidance on. And not only will they see scripture, but they'll see your advice next to it. I love that idea. I'm actually going to start doing that. I just heard that the other day.
I think I'm going to steal that too.
How great of an idea is that? I love it so much. And I think that's something I'm going to do. It's going to take a lot of work. It's not easy to go through the whole Bible and leave notes every time you do it. But I recently heard that and I was like, that would be the best thing to leave my kid. You have a son and a daughter. How is that different? No, better question. When are you going to tell your son your stories?
Probably when he asks.
Because you got some wild ones. And one day he's going to be curious. What did that do? And it's going to be like, oh, I don't know if I can tell him this one.
I will probably just tell him when he asks.
How honest do you think you'll be?
Depends how old he is. But I mean, probably more honest than I should be.
I think it's better. How is it different between how you view your son and your daughter? Because again, I asked maybe not the most interesting questions, but you have such interesting life story. You have such a different perspective than maybe almost anybody watching or listening. If you're able to kind of decipher that, I feel like there's other people that be like, all right, my kind of small stories.
How do I
approach them differently?
Well, right now, my daughter's only 7 months old and she doesn't want anything to do with anybody other than mom. So I approach with extreme caution with my daughter. And with my son, you know, we were talking about planting seeds. I plant seeds very early. I mean, he's 2 years old. We started talking to him about private parts. Nobody touches those. Your weenie and your butt. Nobody touches them but mom and dad. You got that? And you know, it's funny, but he knows, man. He knows. We start changing his diaper and he's like, weenie in my butt. Private parts. And I introduced him to firearms. I hung a firearm in my son's room. He came home and there was a American-made Winchester 357 lever-action rifle antique hanging on his wall, way higher than he could ever.
Yeah, calm down, guys.
Yeah, on a ladder.
Calm down.
But I want him to see these things, you know, and I want him to. I don't want the gun to be the forbidden fruit, and I have a back deck. I shoot off my back deck every day, and every time I get the gun, he starts yelling gun. He runs over to the den room and climbs on the couch to look off the back window to see Dad shoot. He knows not to touch it. He knows guns are dangerous. He knows the difference between a pistol and a rifle. He knows how to load a lever action now. And
really?
He knows if he ever sees a gun, then he needs to tell mom and dad. And so he'll point at the gun. He's not even potty trained yet. And he'll point and say, mom and dad. Guns are dangerous, mom and dad. You know? But it's not like this forbidden thing that he only gets to see and he can't touch ever. And you know, I don't let him hold it, but I let him drop the bullets down the tube of the lever action. And I think it's important to introduce things to your kids at an early age. especially with all the shit that we see going on with the sex trafficking rings. I mean, here in Franklin, they just busted one that was one of the biggest sex trafficking rings in the whole country.
Really?
Yeah. They say this is also one of the safest places to live in the whole country. They just busted a soccer coach a couple of months ago who has been drugging little boys and molesting them, and they found it on a phone in a pizza shop because the guy left his phone and he had all these videos of what he's doing to little boys.
Here?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and so you need to, like, get these... Sorry, you were asking me how I approached my son, and it was probably not supposed to be this heavy, but I mean, I think you got to put this stuff in your kids' ears, and it doesn't have to be fear-based. You know, it's just, hey, that's your weenie, that's your butt. Nobody touches that but mom and dad. If anybody ever does, you tell us, and he knows. You know, and that's important. And I don't think parents do that. You know, it goes back to the laziness stuff. I don't think, you know, we're all giving the younger generations shit about being addicted to TikTok and Instagram. Dude, I'm just as addicted to it as anybody else, and I know you probably are too, you know? But you can't let that stuff consume you, and you have to come to the realization that, hey man, like, life is more important than this fake shit that you're holding in your hand, that you're getting all this, you're getting fed all the time. And sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
I feel like at some point in our kids' future, in that generation, they will be presented a conscious decision. Do you want to plug in and be a part of this new technology Borg that's in this world, where you give up control, you give up thought, you give up free will, but you live a really good life? Versus, do you want not have access to this? Do you not want to be given the extra the extra conveniences of life, but you get to be free? I feel like that will be a conscious decision that our children will be presented the option for sure. And I think most 80%, 90% of the world will choose to give up their free will and thought for convenience. I think there's nothing about this world now that shows me that majority of people won't comply. I think we're being eased into it. I try to raise my kid as though she will face that decision in her life, hoping that she will take the harder road of being, I'm going to live free, I'm going to let my mind be free, but I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot for it. Because I really do feel like that's going to be the drawn line in the sand at one point in society. And it will be a conscious choice. I don't think they force it on you. I don't think they actually ever force anything on you. I think people willingly choose to give up our freedoms. Hey, I'll sign this form and I'll sign up for TSA pre-check because I want 15 minutes of my convenience back. I will get vaccinated in New York City because I want to go to the restaurant, because I want to go to the bar. God forbid I have to stay home and everyone's partying. But shoot me 5 times, I want to go to the bar. People willingly give up control just so they can have convenience. For little things. There will be a time where that decision is for your mind. I think about that all the time. I want to make sure that my child, given that opportunity, and it's going to be her choice. She's going to have that decision when she's old enough where I have no say any longer. I pray that she makes the right decision. And it's going to be the harder road to take. And I think that happens in our lifetime for sure. I think about it all the time. What do you think about that?
I think she's got a good dad paving the way, and that'll come into play.
Doesn't always work out the way you want it to. You know what I mean?
And I think, I think you're right. I think we will hit that point. But I also, I talked a lot of negative things today. Lazy Americans, people not wanting to raise their kids. But on the other hand, we're seeing a lot of positivity. We are seeing a lot of people rise up, and we're seeing people not take this stuff anymore. And you know, one thing about this state and this town, Franklin is like the homeschool mecca. Everybody's doing homeschool. Everybody is doing homeschool, and it's happening more and more and more. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't know any parents in my immediate circle whose kids are going to public or private school. Every single person is planning on or is doing or has raised their kids through homeschool.
Is that what you're going to do?
That's probably what I'm going to do. I have an idea that I wanted to do. It's getting hard to find people to do it, but my idea is, I think... Are you trying to wrap this up? Because this could go on.
No.
But
we can go till tomorrow if you want.
I mean, I'm very concerned about the schools. I know you are too. A lot of people are. But back to kind of the single mom thing, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm extremely, my schedule is stacked. I know you know what that's like too. And I like what I do, and I don't want to give everything up because there are a lot of benefits to where I'm at and things that I can give my kid that other people that don't want to work this hard can't. And so anyways, one thing is that we worry about is the socialization of homeschool, which now they have these co-ops, and I'm not too familiar with that yet, but apparently it's a big burden off parents every once in a while to go to a co-op a couple days a week. The other thing is the time commitment from us as parents. And, I mean, we don't have any family here. It's hard raising two kids with zero family around and zero people to help out, And, I mean, yeah, I have people like, oh, yeah, I'll watch your kid. Like, yeah, I'll bet you will. No, thanks. But
I'm good,
cool.
bro.
I met you 2 days ago. Never going to fucking happen. But to share, the burden with other families, I think I think it's helpful. And so my idea was, if you had a group of people that you align your values with, and like a good network of people with kids right around the same age, I think it would be great if everybody could pitch in to purchase a property, and it turns into a real estate investment. You put that property in some sort of a trust, and you put in 20%, I put in 20%, this guy over here puts in 50%, and the other guy puts in 10%. Well, there's 100%. And so everybody owns that percentage of that plot of land or building or whatever it is, and it's essentially a real estate investment. It's not a school, it's a real estate investment that just so happens to be where homeschooling takes place. And you could hire a teacher, and you have well-rounded parents who all have different expertise: doctors, attorneys, financial people, Navy SEALs, whatever, gardeners, and you teach entrepreneurs, and you get the core curriculum out, and then you also bring in each parent as a resident expert on something that actually is important in life, like how to balance a checkbook or how to take on debt responsibly and pay that, all these different things that aren't taught in school. And then at the end, when the kids have been raised, the property gets sold, the trust dissolves, and the percentage of the equity in the initial investment goes back. So you had $100,000 investment. Matt Kim put in 50%. We sell it for $200,000. Well, now you just, doubled your money. So it's been hard putting that together. My network is not that big here locally because I'm not a very trusting person. And but I think that's a model that people all across the country, all across the world, if you're dealing with the kind of public schools that we are, I think that's a viable solution, and it's scalable to, oh, well, this isn't going to work for people that are below the poverty line. Yep, probably not. But if you get enough of you, then it will, and you just make damn sure whoever you're bringing into this venture, this real estate investment venture with you, everybody's on the same page. We're not teaching X, Y, and Z. We are teaching A, B, and C, and I mean, what do you think of that?
I like that idea, actually. I've never thought about it before, but because we go back and forth all the time. Where are we going to send our kids to school? Where are we going to send her to school? Actually, she was just here. You just missed her. And we think about it all the time, like, what are we going to do? And we tried to move to a more conservative area, and we recently did. But even then, wherever you go, the craziness leaks into your neighborhood. And then what are you going to do? 5 years later, you're going to move again? You're going to move again? You're going to move again? Yeah. Like, how many times or how long can you outrun the craziness?
Yeah.
At some point, you have to stay. This is where I'm going to stay. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I'm going to raise my family. And you got to make a stand. But it's your children. I don't want my daughter to be in the middle of the battleground. It really comes down to a alternate way to create community around raising your children. That's really what it is. To simplify it, right? It's just community. And everyone's bought in at a certain point so that there's interest there, so that everyone shares the burden. I like the idea a lot.
I mean, if you got 100 people to put in 1%, well, I mean, that's still, it's, all I'm saying is it is possible for every financial situation. It's how much work are you going to put into making it happen, but it is possible for everybody to figure something like this out with that method.
And when I think about schooling, because in most things in life, I try to think in a way that's fair for everybody. I at least try to be understanding of people that may not be in certain positions, to at least have a good heart and open heart about being better for society. When it comes to my kid, I don't care if you're rich or poor. Like, I just want what's best for my kid.
Yeah.
It's a very selfish thing, actually. And I feel like I have to be. If anything in life, if I have something to eat and the guy next to me doesn't have anything to eat and we're sitting right next to each other, take my food, I'll share it with you. Not a big deal. It's me. When it comes to my kid, and it's my kid's food and she needs to eat, I don't care if you're starving. You can starve all you want. I got to make sure she's fed. It's like this inherent kind of protective nature that comes out when you're children. So I don't think it has to work for everybody. Actually, I don't care if it works for everyone. And maybe that's really selfish to say. I just want it to work for my kid.
Yeah.
I think trying to figure out a situation and a model that works for everyone, maybe that's too difficult. Maybe it's figure out a model that works for you. And if it works, let other people copy it or let them not. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's your kid. Like, that has to be the priority. Maybe you're making the problem too big.
Well, maybe you should move up here and we'll open this together.
Apparently, there's not much for sale up this way. I'm competing with the Californians that driving up the price. Can I roll it back 5 years ago?
But I really like that idea. I think it would work. And I mean, we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to look for families that would be interested in something like that,
I think that's interesting because I've spoken to a couple people that are part of kind of these state-sponsored homeschool co-ops. They receive government funding, etc. And what he told me, a guy I trust a lot, he told me the problem is he's been through a few of them. He said the biggest problem is that you end up mixing with the kids that couldn't make it in public school, maybe got kicked out, they had problems, they had social problems, they couldn't get along, so the parents are forced to homeschool. And then now you're actually mixing your kids with worse than it was at public school.
Yeah.
Because the half of the school is people that actually care, that want to raise their kids differently and bring in along, hopefully shared values. And the other half of the school is the absolute opposite. They couldn't put their kids to public school because public school didn't work out. And now you have this really weird dynamic. And he said it's actually more difficult going through some of these co-ops.
Interesting.
Which I never thought of.
Yeah, I would think the majority of people that are going to put the effort into homeschool their kids are very good parents.
And it's not. A lot of parents who homeschool their kids, they're like, all right, here's some curriculum. I downloaded it from whatever the homeschool place is. Here, kid, do this and do this for 1 hour and go watch TV the entire day.
Maybe that's your area. Every single person I've talked to that's homeschooling their parents, I would say are
active.
Yes, very in tune, concerned parents. I've not seen anything like that. But I wouldn't run in a circle like that either. So, yeah.
I think schooling is tough. I think about it all the time, especially with young kids. Hopefully, we'll have a second soon. And how many kids do you think you'll have? Are you done?
I'm done.
Are you?
2. We got a boy and a girl, and that's it.
Done?
That's it.
I think I'd have 10 if I could.
If I would have started in my 20s, then yeah,
Why
I would
not?
have more. But
You're young. You're healthy. You're healthier than most.
maybe. I don't have the energy that I did at a 25-year-old, but we're pulling the plug.
Pulling the plug.
Yep.
It's funny. I had a friend who had 4 daughters. And after 4, he was like, I'm done. And he, had his cut and whatever else, right? So that he can't have more kids. And one day, she's pregnant. 5th daughter. So he goes into the doctor's office and he says, somebody's in trouble. Either you fucked up or you fucked up. But one of you guys fucked up. You never know. You never know what you get. And there he is. He's got 5 daughters and his wife. He's got 6 girls in the house.
Oh, man.
It's not easy. Brian, if you're out there, bro, I don't know how you do it, man.
Yeah.
You can try to control life all you want. Sometimes God has a bigger plan. I think about that a lot. God's plan. Something I struggle with. I feel like I constantly want to figure out what God's plan is. We'll never figure that out.
Not until it's over.
Not until it's over. Appreciate you, Shawn.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for coming out. And maybe one of my favorite people in the world.
Right back at you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Cheers.
Oh.